Hello students! It is time for a big review because we have been learning and we have been so busy so far this year. So I want you to pause the video, and you're going to be asked to pause it throughout this. You're going to pause, get your home journal, get something to write with, because I'm going to have some review questions for you and I want you to try them before I go through and I explain them for you. Alright, so right now go ahead and pause and go get your home journal and go get something to write with. Alright, hopefully you got those things in front of you. Make sure you are turned to a nice clean page, your next available page. You're not just picking a random page in the middle. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. So here's our first two questions. I want you to do both of these. I will go ahead and read them to you. So question B, it says, which word uses the suffix ly in the same way as the word in the sentence? The dog quickly chased the ball. Letter A, family. Letter B, silly. Letter C, clearly. Letter D, butterfly. And for question D, which words use the prefix re the same way as the words in the chart? We have reread and rethink. So our choices are read, restroom, retest, rebuild, reach, and reheat. Pause the video, and I want you to try these two questions on your own. And when you are done, go ahead and unpause and I will talk about them. So pause your video. Alright, so let's talk about question B first. Which word uses the suffix ly in the same way as the word in this sentence? So our word, the dog quickly chased the ball, our word is quickly. So right off the bat, you should have noticed this word suffix. We have been talking about prefixes and suffixes all year. A suffix goes at the end of a word. We can see that right here in our word quickly. And it's going to change that base word or that root word. Remember, that's the same word for the same thing. Base word, root word, they mean the same thing. So my base word in the word quickly is quick. It is a complete word all by itself. And ly tells me how I'm doing that. So I am doing it quickly, or the dog is doing it quickly. So when we go down here and we're going to pick our choices, we want to figure out which one has a base word, and that ly is not part of the word, it's changing the word. So in our letter A, we have family. So if I cover up everything except my alleged suffix, I have fami, family. That is not a word on its own. It is not a base word, not a root word. So it cannot be family. So we're going to go ahead and slash the trash. Get it out of there. We don't need it. Letter B we have is silly. If I cover up everything except that, I have sil, not a base word. So guess what? We're going to, you betcha, slash trash. Let's look at our next word. We have clearly. If I go ahead and cover up everything but that maybe suffix, I have the word clear. Is that a word by itself? Yeah, clear is its own word. If you see something clearly, that's how you're doing it. It is in a clear way. So letter C is definitely one of our choices. And remember, we have to check all choices always because there could be more than one. Next down here is we have the word butterfly. So if I look at, and if I cover up everything except that ly, I have butterf. Is butterf a word? Nope, it is not. Butterfly is a compound word. Butter is a word, and fly is a word. When you smush them together, you get a compound word. But butterf is not a base word. So butterfly is not using that ly. Ly is part of fly. So we are going to slash that trash, and our answer is letter C. Let's go over to letter D. It says, which words, oh my goodness, words. That is plural, meaning there is more than one. So I bet you I'm going to have to pick more than one of these questions more than one of these choices down below. So it says, which words use the prefix RE the same way as the words in the chart? So I pulled our words up here so they're nice and big so you can see them. We have reread. I'm going to go for my base word, which is read. And hopefully from class you remember that if we have re, that means you're doing something again. So if your teacher asks you to reread something, you need to read it again. And if we look at rethink, think is my base word. So if you're asked to rethink, that means go think about that again. So let's go down here and look at our choices. We have read. So if I cover up everything but my prefix this time, we have AD. Is that a full base word? It sure is not. So we can go ahead and slash the trash. Let's go to letter B. We have restroom. So if I cover up, I have stroom. Nope, not a word. Let us slash the trash. It is not a base word. Let's go to retest. So do I have a base word here? I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. Do I have a base word there? Yeah, test is its own word. And I've heard that before. If you retest, that means you take your test again. So we absolutely have our first one. Letter C. Letter D, it says rebuild. If I cover up everything except my RE, I have build. Yeah, that's a word. So if I'm asked to rebuild, that means I have to build it again. So letter D is also a choice. See why it's so important that we read all of our choices? Because sometimes you might have to pick more than one. Let's go down to our next one. We have reach. We have, where did that go? We have ACH. Is that a base word? No, it is not. So we are going to slash the trash. We have one last word. It says reheat. So if I cover that up, is heat its own word? Yeah. So if you reheat something, that means you're heating it again. Like if you have leftover pizza and you're going to eat that pizza, you might reheat it in the oven. So there you go. Make sure you're checking your work and going over it as we go over it, because that's how we get better at it. So hopefully you got these choices down here. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about homophones. So remember, homophones are words that sound the same but are spelled and mean different things. So can you think of any? I want you to pause and in your home journal write down as many homophones as you can think of. And then I'm going to take a list here and see if you came up with some of the same ones I did. So go ahead and pause. I'm going to go ahead and pause your video and think about how many homophones you can come up with. Alrighty, hopefully you got a nice list of homophones. So remember, homophones are words that sound the same but are spelled and mean different things. So some of the ones we've talked about in class, and there are hundreds of homophones, okay? So if you didn't get all of these, that's okay. I'm only going to put a couple down. All right, so we have pair and pair. Make that a little bit bigger for you guys. So this type of pair, P-A-I-R, is like having a pair of socks. And this pair is like the pair that you eat. So pair and pair, they are spelled differently, but they sound the same. Remember, homophones. Homo means same, and phones means sound. So they sound the same. Another one, hair and hair. H-A-I-R is the hair like on your head and on your arms, and H-A-R-E is like the other word for a rabbit. Another example. This is a tricky one. We have 2, 2, and 2. This first 2 is talking about where are you going. So I'm going to the store. It's talking about a place. When we have TOO, it's usually talking about an amount of something. So like I had too much pasta for dinner. You have too much, TOO. And then this TWO is like the number 2. Like Miss Roach has 2 mittens. I don't know. 2 shoes. It's a number. Let's do another one. You could have I and I. This EYE is like the eyeball in your head. And this I is like you talking about yourself. I. And I have one more example here. And like I said, there are hundreds of ones of these. So you could have had any other ones, and that's okay. These are just the ones that I came up with real quick. We could also have C and C. So SEE would be like you see with your eyes. And SEA would be like talking about like the ocean or something like that. All right, we have some long vowels. We have talked a ton about different ways to make long vowel sounds. All right, so let's look pretty quick at this chart, so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time doing this. So here are the ways that you could make long vowel sounds. A, you could just use the letter A, like in acorn. You could have a consonant E, like in snake, A consonant E. You could have an AI, like rain. You could have an AY, like hey. Down here, to make the long E sound, you could just have a letter E, like in equal. You could have IE, like thief. You could have an E consonant E, like in these. You could have an EA, like in leaf. You could have a Y, like baby. You could have an EE, like bee. To make that long I sound, you could have a Y, just a Y, like fly. Remember, those long vowels say their name. All right, so if you should be hearing I, E, A. You could have just an I, like pilot, or an IE, like pie. I consonant E, like in bike. Or this very tricky one, IGH, like in night. Night. For a long O, where O says its name, it could just be an O, like robot. That one's tricky because it has 2 O's and they make different sounds. So we have O, B, ot. So just that first O is the one that says its name, is the long vowel. The other one would be a short vowel. You could have O consonant E, like in bone. You could have OA, like boat. You could have OW, like bow. You could have OE, like toe. And our long U has 2 sounds. It could say U and oo. So like just a U, like unicorn. Or moon with those 2 O's. Or cube, U consonant E. Screw, like that EW. Or glue, like that UE. So here's our next question we're going to be doing. It says, choose all of the words below that have a long E vowel sound. So right off the bat, look, all. Choose all the words below. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to pick all the words that have a long E sound, where that E says its name. So go ahead and pause, and I want you to try this. Alrighty, we're going to go over it. Hopefully you picked all your right choices. So the most important thing for you to do doing these types of questions, you need to whisper read every single word to yourself. When I say whisper read, I don't mean reading so that your neighbor can hear. I mean whispering so that only you can hear. So I'm going to go down them and we're going to see. Our first one for letter A is beach. B-each. Yes, that has my long E sound. Beach. The next word, let. Let. Does that E say its name? No, it does not. So I'm going to slash the trash. Next one we have is monkey. Monkey. Yep, that E says its name. Monkey is a choice. The next word is going to be bone. Bone. I hear a long vowel, but it is not the long E vowel. So we are going to slash the trash. Our next word we have is thief. Thief. Yep, that is a good choice. We're going to highlight it. The next word we have is feet. Eat. Yep, I hear that E say its name. Next word we have is grief. Grief. Yep, got that long E. And our last word is bet. Bet. Not a long E. That is a short E. So slash the trash. So make sure you are reading every single choice that you have. Because this one has an E. This one had an E. But it did not say its name. It was not that long vowel. All right. Remember this? Asking and answer questions. We have 4 types of questions. We have right there questions, which are questions typically found within a single sentence, and the text explicitly gives an answer to this type of question. So this is just a, what color was the mug? You go back and you can find in one place, oh, the mug was blue. We have a think and search type of questions, and those can be found in the text but are typically in more than one sentence. Students will need to look through the entire text to find the places where the answer is located. So you might have to read a whole paragraph or reread your whole passage again. And remember, good readers read something more than once, at least 3 times. So make sure that you are rereading. Look at me using a prefix. Reread. Read it again. It could be an author and me question. Questions cannot be found in the text. Students must use their schema. We talked about that word. It's like a background knowledge. So things that you already know. So they have to use their schema and the text to make an inference and figure out the question. So that was like when we were talking about drawing conclusions. You know a lot already. Bring that to the table. It might ask you to those types of questions. The next thing is answers on my own. These are questions that cannot be found in the text, and students need to use their schema, prior knowledge, background knowledge, things you already know, to answer these types of questions. So just think, they're not all going to be right there type questions. You might have to think and search and use some of that background knowledge. Next thing, drawing conclusions, making inferences. We talked about this just last week. So this is combining what you already know, that schema, that background knowledge, with what the text says, your evidence, to go beyond what the author is saying, which is then your inference. So for example, Jason sat on the front porch by himself. He wanted to be alone. He kicked around some dirt with his shoes as tears began to well up in his eyes. So they pulled out some evidence. The evidence. He wanted to be alone and he had tears in his eyes. So your schema, what you are thinking. So when you see someone crying, what are you thinking? It says people usually cry and want to be alone when they are sad. So if you're not feeling well, or if you're mad or you're sad, you might want to be alone. You already know that. So the conclusion or the inference, you can make the assumption that Jason must be sad. He's probably sad if he's starting to cry, right? The author didn't tell us that Jason was sad, but we can make it based on what we know from the text, all right, and what we already know as people. So here were some examples that we did in class. So if you were seeing gifts or in balloons and party clothes, a conclusion you can draw is that they're going to some kind of a party. Maybe a birthday party, maybe a Christmas party, maybe a Hanukkah party. I don't know, any type of party. Some more clues. You might see a bus, a school, and some students. Your conclusion could be the kids are going or leaving school. So you're using what you already know to figure out what people will do or say. We talked a lot about fiction versus nonfiction. Remember, fiction is fake. It is made up, has made up characters and events. It is not stuff that already happened. It's made up. Nonfiction is text with real characters and events, and it is a text that gives facts and information. So fiction, fake. Nonfiction, not fake. Going down here to our text features. We have all these different types of text features. I would like you to pause this video and reread them again. These are super important. Table of contents. A list of chapter pages and numbers. This is in the front of your book. Heading. It's a word or phrase that tells you what the passage will be about. Glossary. A list of words in the back of the text. They're going to give a word and a definition from what you were reading. A diagram is a labeled drawing or photograph. So remember, you have words pointing to some kind of a picture. An index is a list of topics in the book in ABC order that are found at the back. So they're different from the table of contents. Table of contents tells you a whole chapter in its page. The index tells you just a little bit of that and tells you what page you can find that word. Table and chart, an organized way to display the data. Photograph and a caption. So a picture taken with a camera and words that talk about it. And then we have a map. It is a visual aid that shows you where something is located. Then we have our main idea and details. Main idea, what the text is mostly about. Detail, more specific information about the main idea. And again, we've done this multiple times. So go ahead, pause this, read over this again, and remember all the stuff that we've talked about in class. We got one more that we're going to do together. It says Aunt Jackie's ring. Always read the title. All right, that will give you a big clue, hint, hint, as to what you might have to answer a question about. Remember, we have these numbers here that help me what paragraph we're in. Paragraph 1. For Mary's birthday, her aunt gave her a ring that was more than 100 years old. Take good care of it, her aunt warned. She did just that until one day Mary looked down at her hand and noticed the ring was gone. Paragraph 2. Aunt Jackie is going to be so disappointed in me, thought Mary. Then Mary remembered she put the ring in her pocket when she washed her hands at the sink. Thank goodness, Mary said to herself. After that, she never took off Aunt Jackie's ring again. Our question is, this story is mostly about. You have 4 choices. Pause the video, make your choice. All right, so let's talk about it. This story is mostly about, let's go through our choices. A normal day. Was this talking about a normal day? Absolutely not. Something happened this day. Actually, let's do this. Let's go ahead and slash our trash. Next, Mary's aunt. Was this mostly about Mary's aunt? No, it was not mostly about her. She was mentioned because Aunt Jackie is the one that gave her the ring, but that is not what this story is mostly about. So we're going to slash that trash. Was it mostly about a special ring? Look at our title. Our title says Aunt Jackie's ring. That is a big, big hint. Also, throughout this whole passage, it talked about the ring. It talked about how the ring was over 100 years old. Her aunt gave it to her. Then she lost the ring, and she found it again. So this is an excellent choice. A special ring. How about Mary's birthday? Again, it was given to her for Mary's birthday, but that's not what this is mostly about. It is mostly about her getting the ring, losing the ring, and finding it again. So we're going to slash that trash. And our best choice, our best option was that letter C. It was mostly about a special ring. All right. Thank you so much for paying attention. I hope you have a wonderful day and good luck on your upcoming benchmark.